Okay. Hello, everyone. So the recording has begun. Again, this is SASS Mass. Welcome. We're here Sunday, and this is posted to our YouTube channel. You are welcome to remain on or off camera, but it will be for the public to see. The terms of engagement are posted in the chat, so if you can take a look at those, please. We have been trying something new at SASS, so I'll be your moderator today, but when you want to weigh in or change the subject, you can raise your hand. If you want to weigh in, you can put that in the chat. But we try to do a handoff, so you can just pick the person who's next. And you can do that by, if you're on your phone, clicking the three little dots and click on people, or if you're on your computer, you should just be able to click on people. And that will tell you who's next. Sometimes the computer will number it for you too. And if you don't know who's next, just say who's next, or Jen Marie and I will help you out. There are a couple of announcements today. So I'm going to spotlight myself because maybe I'll use it for the newsletter and maybe not, depending on how it goes. But let me just do that real quick. Give me a moment. And then we can get into the witchy chat. Okay. Oh, I didn't do it. Did I? Am I bigger on your screen? Wonderful.
Yep.
Okay. Thank you. Okay, so hello, witches. So here are the announcements. And I just wanted to first say, like, we appreciate you hanging in there with us through like these businessy type things, just because we had a lot going on. And I know some of you aren't members of the Foundations program, so I appreciate you just your patience and just hanging in there with us as we talk about all of these things that are happening. So we have officially switched our website platform. We're really excited because it's going to provide a lot of enhancements to the Foundations program and also the shop. So we're super excited about that, but that involves moving everybody over there. So today is Sunday. You received your email for your Broombox if you have a Broombox subscription. So our Broombox cycle runs like this from the 17th of the month to the 16th of the month. That's our cycle. So the 16th of the month, Kim starts to gather all the orders, and a little bit later she ships them out for the next month. And that's how we make sure that you all get your boxes in time to start the new moon cycle. So that means everybody was canceled this morning. And if you still want to get your broom box, which I know a lot of you love your boxes like me, you'll just want to go ahead on the website and re-sign up for your broom box subscription. So again, this will be starting a new cycle. So everybody will be all set to do that. And you can sign up anytime today through the 16th of October. And then you'll be staying on your regular subscription. If you already had a subscription, not to worry, your broom box, will be going out for the October moon cycle. So you'll be all set with that. Then we also have started moving our memberships over. So within a couple of days to a week of your membership renewing, you'll get an email from support that will get you off of the old platform. And what that means is you'll get like 2 cancellation emails, but they're not really cancellations. It just kind of means, hey, you're removed from the old platform. Go ahead and sign up on the new platform. And that will keep your subscription going. One announcement, we do have a price change for the Foundations program, and that will be switching to $35, but our existing members are grandfathered into that. So just go ahead and make sure you're reading and checking those emails as they come out. So it will make sure you keep everything the same as you had it before, except you get all the perks of the new website. The shipping rates are a little bit better. We can do more things. We'll be able to email specific groups of people. So it will be a lot better for everyone. And the most exciting announcement is the workbook. So it's time for the workbook. So for months and months, really probably for 2 years, we've been asking Jen Marie for like some more content in writing for us to follow along. So it got real and it happened. We have the workbook. Every month you're going to get 3 installments: beginning of the month, the middle of the month, and the end of the month. And it's going to really guide you and take you through that moon cycle, focusing on the traditional correspondence, but also leaving room to take your own data and, add in your personal correspondence. So it's going to take you through the whole month, from what the correspondence are, the focus of the month, the journal prompts. There's going to be different like add-on things that that goes in there. So I'm not going to give it all away. You'll get like a second installment of the middle of the month that will take you through our spellcraft, and then we'll kind of wrap it up for everyone and then start to prepare for the new month with the third installment. So we're super excited. Those are the announcements, and thank you for listening. Okay, I'm going to come off a spotlight now. And Jemry or Kim, if you want to add anything, feel free to jump right in.
I'm so excited about the workbook, guys. Like, it's actually 12 workbooks to be specific, because there's one for each moon cycle. And they cater to the neurodivergent mind and the way that we process information. And I'm hoping that like intrigues you guys. I hope you guys are like, well, what does she mean by that? I can't wait to show you. I can't wait to show you. The whole workbook is interactive. It's set up like it's got the structure of what's called a long form spell. Uh, and that's a little bit different than what you guys have experienced in the past. It's dialed all the way in. And so it's a magical working that you're doing every month, and you have step-by-step instructions on how to do all of that. For those of you that have been in the program before, it's not a lot of an adjustment. It's just more. Uh, it's more and more and more and more. And God, I cannot wait for you guys to see it and to start like sharing your perspectives about it. And this is also what we call like a living spell. So the more people that participate and give feedback, the better it gets. And so it's not something that is set in stone, it grows with us. And for every perspective added to it, it just gets better and better. So my body is uh in a healing cycle right now. I have like super low grade fever, congestion, and all that fun stuff. I decided to just come to SASS anyway. I'm not feeling terrible. I'm feeling fluffy. Fluffy's not the word. Words are hard. But I just wanted to hang out with you guys today. And it's not that I have a whole bunch to talk about. I do have a bunch to talk about. I'm still slightly gagged a little bit by the support team, ever so slightly. Just like one more week, and then I get to like break through the barriers and start really, fuzzy. My brain is a little fuzzy. Um, And I just realized I have 7 days until I'm on a plane down to Oregon for the autumnal convergence, and that's really exciting. Uh, but yeah, here we go. What are you guys doing? What are you guys up to this week or last week? What have you guys been up to this last week? Does anyone have any like burning something you want to talk about or share? No. Okay. Oh, go ahead, Matt.
Not exactly burning, I wouldn't say, but my absence for the last couple of weeks, well, the universe drug me by the hair off into an adventure, let's say that. And an adventure of love. Those are always or seem to be the biggest and most exciting, and sometimes have the biggest crash and burns. And um And honestly, I wouldn't even bring it up in this environment except for some things that happened in that development that were absolutely crazy witchy. And I'd actually love some feedback about how you guys handle this kind of stuff. So, to shorten the story, um, met someone, eh, got lots of sixth sense signals, and how to describe this? I call it unmasking. Okay, so if I'm working to read someone specifically, not clairsentience, not universal knowledge, what's going on inside them? It's a way of staring in through their eyes and just opening that super deep connection quickly and being able to close it back off. Very, very careful about how and when I do that. It makes a lot of people uncomfortable. It's certainly a consent thing first. Never have a problem avoiding it until I met her. And an hour and a half into lunch, I'm having to physically, not just stop myself energetically, but like physically hold my eyes shut to keep from looking at her. Right? It's clear that, and then once that happened, it was clear that whether it's past life, whether it's whatever else, we've known each other before. There's more going on here in that picture because I know how quickly I can connect and read with people, and this just blew everything out of the water. Well, then what do you do when I go, hey, I'm like crazy polyamorous as polyamorous can get, basically. And she's like, whoa, that's not me at all, even remotely. Which puts a really big challenge in front of, like, what do I do? Like, I don't want to give on who I am or my principles and things I've definitely figured out about who I am. She knows who she is, and at the same time, the universe is going, hey guys, you are really, really, really supposed to be together. Like, after our first meet, it was just friends, like, or nothing, physical. And but after that, the flirting upped, and I was just thinking about texting her, hey, next time I'm going to see you, I'm going to kiss you, just warn you. Like, we had the level of flirt going that was totally appropriate. I'm in Starbucks and there's a lot of witches behind the counter. I just so much as think about pulling my phone out to start to text that, all the lights start flickering. 5 solid seconds. All the customers are like, no big deal. Everyone behind the counter is tuned into energy, is going, what just happened? Lots of physical signs, like signs in the physical realm, in the mundane realm, that like this is throwing off energy at a whole different class than 99.9% of the time. How far do you, like, where do you push that? Where do you let it go? Where like, what does that mean from the universe? Like, maybe it was only supposed to be a 4-week lesson. Could be. I tend to think running into someone that I randomly have so much obvious pre-existing channels open with that I had to do zero work to open with, and they were just wide, wide, wide open. Where do things go from there? What do you guys do when you're get smacked by the universe going, do this, do this, do this, do this, do this? Oh wait, you're gonna have to really give up some stuff of yourself to do this. So yeah, open floor. Have at please.
Okay. There's a lot going on here. There's there's so much. Where do I start? First of all, a lot of us tend to assume that if we're being drawn or we feel attracted to someone, right? And there's lots of signs that interacting with them in some way is important or significant. We assume that it's supposed to be like, oh, this is like the one I'm supposed to be with, or this is my twin flame, or this is like some significant relationship. Um, it can be significant, but there are blessings both bright and dark, right? This just because you're attracted to someone does not necessarily mean that it's supposed to be this like match made in heaven kind of thing. It very well could be that like one of the most challenging relationships you ever had because it brings you to a point that that you learn something about yourself or you learn something about life in some way. It could be this. Now, as far as like relationship dynamics, um, I always go to being as authentic and real as you possibly can when entering into kind of a relationship. It's funny because I was just talking about this like yesterday. I don't believe in putting your best foot forward when you're dating, like at all. I think it's bullshit. And I think that it's like manipulative. Be who you are.
Y-
Period. Unapologetically, this is how I am. Show your hot mess bits because if they can't accept your hot mess bits right out of the gate, then what's the fucking point, right? You're making them fall in love with someone who doesn't exist, right? It's not sustainable. This act that is put on, right? And if someone tells you, especially with the whole like poly or monogamous kinds of like any of those kinds of relationship and dynamics, um, if you authentically are like, "Hey, I'm poly, like, that's just how I am. I don't practice monogamy. It's not aligned with what I believe is truth, but this person does practice monogamy, so I'm gonna choose to practice monogamy so I can be with this person." That's bullshit too. Like, that is just a matter of time before something happens,
y-
right? Because the only reason you're
Yeah.
doing something is for someone else. If something were to happen, like, a something difficult and you have, like, a weak moment or someone else is, like, grabs your attention more, that's I mean, it's just a mix it's just waiting for issues. I have never, ever in my extensive background in alternative relationships seen a dynamic like that go well, like ever. If someone's real
Yeah.
clear about, hey, I am monogamous, believe them. Like, believe them
Yeah.
and don't give them the impression that you're open to that if you're not. And this very well could be that. Uh, like this could be that opportunity for you to be like not tested because I don't really believe in like testing, but an opportunity for you to practice being very real and authentic. And regardless of what attraction there is, all the signs and blah, 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 you being authentic and real, uh, like, like that would be the thing. Um,
a-
even though
And I
you are
will
attracted.
say, yeah, and I will say that one, I was super upfront and always authentic. Like even before we even met for the first time, just as figure out like because it was sort of a through a group, like we hadn't done anything more than exchange through a group chat and then a little bit of one-on-one messaging. And so yeah, so there wasn't any like, oh my gosh, there's all these signs she's, my soulmate or like yes, there were very clear signs that there's a very strong soul connection. Part of being poly is, for me at least, is recognizing those things and going, where does that fit in the mix? That isn't some end all trump card that means I'm going to start um, moving on things. And being both witchy and poly, it makes the dating pool pretty small anyway. So I'm used to saying no, it's not a big deal. Um, so then yeah, I think more of it is like not to badmouth her. She knew I was poly. We talked about poly. I thought she was cool with everything. She let everything get physical, and then the next day went, oh, by the way, I'm monogamous. Right? I got blindsided a bit. And then so it became, okay, maybe this is less about my growth and this is more about her growth. Like, it's in relationships, we each have growth in different areas and things we're learning about each other. And, so it's working to be compromising and engaging in a healthy way within a relationship. And whoop, did I just get kicked?
You're here. We can hear you, but can't see you.
Oh, okay. Teams went crazy on me. All right. Anyways, somehow for some reason decided I needed to pop up and anyways, yeah, so that's really sort of more of where the challenge is like I already knew, I know the, hey, they're monogamous thing, like if they're clear about that, and so out of that discussion came, oh, okay, like I'm not seeing anyone else right now, but like if you're going to continue to engage in a relationship with me, I have poly friends you can talk to, resources, all that kind of stuff. And it quickly deteriorated when I saw there was no effort from her side in that. Okay. Hearing words that say, yeah, I'm all aboard. I'm seeing actions that are like, no, I'm staying in my monogamy box. And so it's been a few weeks and we tried. So yes, I think, Jen, that was absolutely great advice. Some of that just didn't apply because I already had that, like, no, like I've had connections like that with people before that are just so clearly above everyone else and gotten burnt by it and learned those lessons. So I didn't let it happen. I tried my best not to let it happen again. And so, yeah, so we're just one of those, what do I do with all that? Like, I'm on the other side. I'm trying to learn, like, there wasn't a huge scratch or burn or like, I saw that there were enough normal relationship dynamic issues that we potentially were going to have problems no matter what. So then it's, what else can I take from this? What am I missing? And that's yes, absolutely. Those parts I did take care of. What else could I have done, or what else am I missing?
I see that Maria wants to weigh in. I just have to throw out, what makes you think you're missing something? Go ahead, Maria.
I wanted to say, yes, I did want to weigh in. And how I think appropriate for like the inward turn that's happening. The questions that you just answered, of course, great to get like feedback and different perspectives, but ultimately they're only questions that you can answer, right? Like, what does that mean? Why did that happen? And just like how, witchy and appropriate for that to happen to you, like going into the inward turn. And is that just it? Are these just questions that you have that will kind of explore, through like this fall kind of winter season? I think, like I've been there. There's like the intuition, the energy part of it, and then there's the human part of it, right? Where we all want social connection. And that kind of exchange typically like feels good. It's good to feel like wanted. It's good to feel attractive, and that feels good. And, just like I don't obviously know this person, but we're all at different levels of exploring our sexuality, our social conditioning, even more so, right? Like, if she's not really like kind of deconstructed in any way, like she may have wanted and felt that connection, but then she has kind of these like values or morals. And so it's like a struggle. And so you maybe opened up some things for her that maybe down the line, maybe she will explore, or maybe she realized, you know what, like that's not for me. It doesn't like negate that connection and that attraction. Like obviously that was very real, that was still there. I've asked myself similar questions. I've been very attracted and connected to people that I knew wasn't going to go well for me due to like situations. And that's hard. Like that's a hard thing to kind of, and I think the only thing that I can really say overall is it's really like going inward and kind of sorting through it all and knowing that it was meaningful and there is that connection, but it's not going to happen in a romantic way, and they're not meant for someone to be like an active participant in my life, but yes, like maybe see you in the next timeline, I don't know. you know but it usually meant like inner work for me or sorting out for me. And I think like you did recognize that that in this human existence, like that wasn't going to work for her, and wasn't going to work for you, although you can only make decisions for yourself, and right, she can only like make her decisions. So yeah, I think this is, as like a human, one of like the more complex things that we like encounter and dive into. And Jem Marie, do you have another way in? Go for it.
I sure do. So as far as the like signs and synchronicities aspect of this, right? Because you had mentioned that there was a lot of just like witchy shit going on around you. Um, wh- I usually advise people to, when you experience those kinds of things, uh, to do that check-in. What was I feeling? What was I thinking? What was going on around me that when this occurred, what did this occurrence, whatever happened, um, how did that make my system feel? How did my system respond to that? Was it scary? Was it shocking? Was it like, what was the emotional like feeling signature of it? This helps us to determine what our guides or our system is trying to communicate with us through these signs or synchronicities. That's something that only you can interpret, because your guides and your system communicates through your lens, not necessarily through like mine. I would interpret flashing lights very differently than someone who doesn't necessarily experience that all the time, right? That might be a fearful kind of thing. Um, so that's something to kind of like lean into a little bit of, especially if you're like, oh, I'm gonna text this person and then everything goes fucking crazy around you. Like I would interpret that as like, oh, well, something's clearly trying to get my attention. What am I feeling? And actually turning in and asking yourself that, hey, body, what's going on here? Hey, energetic body, what are you picking up on? What is my mind's interpretation of these kinds of things? That that would be my suggestion, to go down that route, because it doesn't sound like you're questioning, oh, should I pursue this or not? It's more that, hey, this was an interesting experience. What all can I glean from this? And so it's fascinating. Thank you for sharing. Maria, were you wanting to go back on, or are you still raised
Oh,
from before?
sorry. Nope, just too many buttons to press. I think Matt, did you wanna respond? And then Wit will be next after that. You are on mute.
Thank you. Yeah, so Jen, to reply to your first comment of why do I think I missed something, this is I follow the philosophy of we can't catch everything. And whether it's the time, and I also believe that whether, even if it's the tiniest little insight, someone said half of a sentence that doesn't take, or still takes 6 months to click, I find that being open to both the spiritual, energetic messages and being open in the physical realm, going, hey, here's a witchy community that knows their shit, and isn't like telling me to run off and go pull out the tarot deck and ask it a million questions. And like that's a good self-reflection tool, but like you guys know I'm connected enough to skip that for the basics. Yeah, so coming to the community and throwing it out there and seeing what else, not that I necessarily missed, it's just I didn't have the lens or perspective to see or connect in the right way. So I appreciate all that. Absolutely. And you know, and maybe this shares a little bit for someone who runs into a similar thing down the road and goes, oh, I remember when that guy had lights flashing. And like for me, it was super cool and exciting because it was like, all right, I'm getting signals from the, like, I wasn't trying to do that. That wasn't a normal thing. I'm getting a signal that there is something bigger going on, and I'm not taking it to mean more than that, other than it popped up when I was excited about this person. And then move forward and continue to reassess and not let those initial assessments lock in. And that's how I looped back out pretty quickly, especially considering both with my own telepathy, with my own way of connecting people, because that's something I do with strangers, friends, more than friends all the time. I have a really good data set of, oh, if they get to hear or hear or hear with me and how quickly it takes, it gives me a pretty good read. So yeah, thank you for all the insights. And Wit, if you have more, I'm certainly open to hearing more, or anyone else that I don't see hand up.
I've got a change of subject. Got to weigh in. So my partner, which some people know, Rick, who is witchy adjacent to, well, foundations program adjacent. He's definitely witchy. He's sitting up here laughing right now about that. He has started to experience more, we're leaning towards like mediumistic experiences. And it's been really interesting because we'll be outside with Dandy and he'll hear something and I don't. And so he's really trying to explore that a little bit more. And so I wanted to kind of see if anybody had any good reads or places of where he could gather some more information on that, because it's definitely not one of my skills that have come up or anything that I've dove into. So I can't really advise him of where to go or what to look into for that. So throwing it out there, if anybody has any websites or information or anything, that'd be fabulous. So Matt, it looks like your hand's up first.
Yeah, so quick question on mediumship, because in different communities that can mean something different. Are you saying that in more of the being able to get messages from the dead, like sitting with someone like, oh, your grandma said that their favorite picture is the one that's down in the basement, photo album in the third drawer, and knows this really super specific stuff related to them and their message? Or is it more of a broad thing? Just trying to figure out which set of resources might be best. And if it is the connecting to the dead thing, there's a local community here and I know where they get training from and I can point you that direction.
I think that's what we're trying to figure out. He's not sure yet. Just trying to get some resources to dive into, dial it in a little bit more. We've been talking about not wanting to open up too much yet until he has a little bit better handle on kind of what is his feelings, what is he actually feeling? Is it really mediumistic? Is it more of energy? We're actually going to purchase and watch the psychic protection workshop that Miss Remy through the foundations program, but looking more so just of, I think, a variety of different areas so that he can start reading into it and learning about it more so that he can kind of start feeling into what it is with that. So Jen Marie, it looks like you're next.
My next.
I don't think what I'm going to
So-
say is going to surprise you very much. So, in fact, I could probably be like, "What do you think I'm about to say?" And I bet you can do it. It's the same reason why I stress doing that internal work first, shadow work and deconstruction first. Get to know yourself. Get to know what is coming from within and within his team, and what is an energetic read or an interaction with another entity, or fill in the blanks. There's so much that could be going on, and if he doesn't know his own system, and he doesn't know the difference, if can't tell the difference between an energetic sensation and a physical sensation, or you can't tell the difference between, am I like picking up on the energy of a room, or is my system in a reactive state? And like there's so much that could be going on, and to figure that out, it's a lot of leaning in, a lot of like that, allowing your emotions, allowing the sensations, removing resistances, or bringing awareness to why you are resistant to whatever it is. That's so big and so important, and a lot of people want to just like skip ahead and go to the witchy shit and do like, I want to start talking to, grandma 3 gens back, because that's the fun stuff, right? But what that's going to do is set you up for a foundation of like ego, instead of like a foundation of authenticity, right? Because you're seeking like specialness and seeking outside of yourself and prioritizing a conversation with like outside entities when you have a storm brewing inside and no one's getting along, that internal work is so important. Knowing your own frequencies so that you can tell and read better is what I would recommend. So I would recommend that they do the foundations working. Sorry.
I've said a few times, I said, hey, I know a place you can join to learn how to do some of this stuff.
Go ahead, Maria.
Yeah, all of that. And, the books that I started my like mediumship journey with 20 years ago are probably not what I'd recommend to anybody now, just like going through um my journey. There is someone that I went to high school with. She was like 1 or 2 years younger than me. Oh, do you see the rainbow on my face? It's from my sun catcher. So cool. There's rainbows everywhere in my room right now. Um, her name's Lindsay Marino. She's a professional medium, and she developed a school. So I haven't gone through her programs. I just know her from growing up in the same town, and um, she's a nice person, I could say. And I have had a reading with her before. And so with that though, I would say, just like anything else, there's a million ways to approach it, to do it. And so like with what Jen Marie said, also just feeling out like when kind of talking about what like a ping feels like, or like what it feels like when you get excited, and that's how you'll know like who to kind of go for information. So just kind of feeling out the different ways, because there's just so many ways to approach it. To if he One thing I will say, just like that came up for me early on, is I had to deconstruct religion, obviously, and that was a big part of it. And there was there's an element of safety that I had to deconstruct, and like what what Jen Marie said was really important, because I wanted to make sure that I was safe, that I felt safe, and that I wasn't fear-based, because there's a lot of social deconditioning for me as a 20-year-old that I had to do, when I started doing divination. So that was really, really important, probably the most important. I even check in with, and I'm getting like chills, really all over, body chills. So that maybe is something to highlight, the deconstruction like of fear within like this whole experience. Okay. So then I probably wouldn't say more. That's really where I would start with it. Um, and it's a big one. I still from time to time might like experience again, like that social conditioning runs deep. And so my mind intellectually, I know I have absolutely nothing to be afraid of, but sometimes my body or my energy is like, and then I just kind of know that I need to turn inward and, you know, focus on myself, and maybe put a pause on like whatever witchiness, whatever woo woo I might have been trying to do at that time. Um, so yeah, and then just, but there are some things that you can do, to just like dip your toe in, to just kind of get that part of your brain working, the energy, so even while he's deconstructing, there might just be little things he can do if he's interested in like practicing it, because it is a type of thing that, in my experience, if you practice it, if you engage with it, the more you like can do it. And it's not to say that you can't do it if you don't practice it. It just might take longer to like connect. And so, yeah, hopefully that was helpful. And yeah, I would just say there's so many things wherever he feels pinged, but that, you know, there's just so many different approaches out there, and ways and advice and what not to do, what to do. It just has to feel right for him. And you're
Yeah.
obviously going to be a great support for him too.
Yeah, I think you hit the nail on the head there with that deconstruction, that fear, don't you think? Like, because I think that's a big thing that's come up with it. Yeah.
The fears there, the unknown.
Mm-hmm.
And just to remember, like, you're calling the shots, right? Like you're right. You're experiencing mess, maybe messages from guides, maybe something internally, or maybe something externally, but you call the shots. Like, you're in charge, you set the boundaries for the communication. And so like you're driving the bus. So there's nothing that could ever happen. It's really about all what you believe, right? But I believe that I'm always safe. There's nothing that could ever happen to me, that would harm me. But that's my belief, and I'm just like engaging, as like a, you know, like a community member, like with these other whatever, energies. Just like having a chat, and that if I don't want to chat anymore, I don't have to, and I can let them know that thank you and have a nice day. But you're driving the bus. He's in control of this process. And I love, reaching out for help, asking for help, and wanting to get a foundation before diving in is definitely key. And let's see, who is next? I think Matt is next.
All right. So from hearing all that, at least my general go-to is an emotional log and journal. From a practical, what can I do to work on my internal stuff? The emotional journal does a couple of things. One, it helps you identify longer patterns. Like, most of us, we don't remember what our emotions were last Tuesday. Like, unless something like crazy was happening last Tuesday, 10 days ago, we don't necessarily remember our emotional state or even details of what happened throughout the day. And I find that emotional journal is a really, really, really makes it super clear. Like, oh, I've had 5 days in a row where I'm at 8 or 9 or 10 and emotionally sensitive, and then I get these messages. Then you have a clear, oh, wait, is this message related to this past 5 days of nonsense that's been going on that has me up at a high emotional level? Or am I at a low state with a surprising change? It it's not necessarily about the specifics. It's about having a tool that you can go to and reference and go, how are my emotions? How do my pings and sixth sense stuff, how is that coming into the play? If we need to identify and separate out what our emotions are first, well, then we need to figure out what those are. And that means writing them down, learning what they are. I don't know about you guys, but I know sure as hell I've gone back and read old journal entries and gone, holy shit, that was me. I wrote that. I mean, I remember it now, but oh yeah, that was going on and it totally makes sense now. Millions of other ways to do it. I have found that the most highly effective methods, whatever the practice is, they all involve tracking your emotions in which you can see them in patterns that exist for more than 2, 3, 4, 5 days at a time.
Thank you, Matt. Petra, did you still want to weigh in, change subjects?
Oh no, just weigh in. Sorry. I like got kicked out. I'm on my husband's tablet and I put the little like keyboard to type because the like screen typing is like split. It's completely ridiculous. But my phone was overheating before this. So I was like, no, we're gonna just like try and do what we're gonna do. And then when I was like, I hate this. Sensory wise, this is driving me nuts. So I like took it off and then I was like booted out of the meeting. I was like, Mercury retrograde is over, guys. Mercury went to direct. What is this? Just kidding. I'm just technology being silly. So what I just wanted to say was I agree with like a lot of things that everybody else has said. I think that or I don't know. I was like, here's my resume about this stuff. But like I've been seeing shit and knowing shit and like just been in the like one foot in each world. I don't even know, as long as I can remember. Like I was like little. So it's fun. It's interesting to me sometimes to like hear when people talk about stuff because I think that like even though I grew up evangelical, I like somehow managed to like because of those experiences just be like being afraid of this stuff doesn't make any sense to me because it's just been a part of my life for so long. And so I wanted to offer that perspective of like really what Maria said about like you're in charge, like truly, like we're the corporeal beings. So yes, your fear response to things that you don't understand and don't know is completely valid and is biological and makes sense. So like that's valid. It also is like we have startle responses when shit falls off of our counter or when your dog makes a weird note. Like these are all like those are you know, like part of our survival system. And when your dog makes a weird coughing sound and startles you, you're not going to die. Same things with like spirits in my experience is that like I I have dealt with things that I guess other people might categorize as like malevolent. That was when I was in the church, and so I just cussed the thing out in the name of Jesus so loud. But when I like and a PS that works. Like if you've ever been churched and like you're like, I don't know what to do, like you can do that. Like I don't think Jesus gives a fuck. I'm gonna be really honest. He's like, use my name for whatever you want, bitch. It's fine. Like like in the Bible, it even says that like like whatever these entities know his name. Like that's useful information. If you don't feel comfortable doing that, that's totally fair. I understand that like religious trauma, all those things like that might not be available to everybody. That's definitely in experiencing things later on in life that also were like, I don't know, could have been categorized as like sketchy. It was enough for me to just be like, get the fuck out. Like not interested, goodbye was like sufficient. You don't have to like say something a specific way. You don't have to whatever. You literally are in charge. And I think someone else just being like, hey, by the way, here different samplings of my experience with these kinds of entities in different ways. And also in reviewing those experiences, the ones where I was like, I felt like I was in danger. Realizing that because I have hyperphantasia, and I have an eidetic memory, which essentially means that like my imagination and my memories are in 4K, and I remember everything. So I can travel back in time, literally, to my memory. So I've done that with some of these things as like not being a church person anymore and being like, okay, like what is actually there? Like to be curious with myself and to be like, what was there? And the easiest way that I can explain it is like it's chaotic. Like the energy of that presence was chaotic or in pain, and like it reminds me of trauma energy. And so I think a lot of times like that can be very overwhelming for human beings, right? Like and that's not something that you have to like do anything with. You're completely allowed to just be like, not my circus, not my monkeys, goodbye. Like, and that is sufficient. And I think that that can be easy enough to say and hard enough to feel like it's true. So the other piece that I would say in this is, while you're working with this stuff, is looking into protection work and what makes you feel safe and feel comfortable and feel grounded in your body whilst this stuff is happening. It's about acquiring like tools or supports, knowing that, how do I explain this? Tools are an extension of our own actual energy and experience. So you're not like, the tool doesn't make you what you are what you are. It just helps us sometimes bypass those cognitive blocks that we have or get out of our own way. Like I explain this in terms of like, before there were stethoscopes, you could put your head on someone's chest and hear a murmur if it was bad enough, right? But it's just a tool to enhance, to allow, to like maybe more finely tune something. That's all. And protection work can look many ways, whether that's like crystals, that's working with like ancestor work or guides or whatever. There's a whole litany of things, and I'm sure we could talk ad nauseum about that. So I just wanted to bring that piece up, is like, for me, I've never been someone who's been like heavy into protection work. I do things on a daily basis that are just part of my routine that support my nervous system, that, funnily enough, I found out after already doing them, were also could be classified as protection work. So I think that that's also an important caveat, is saying like, what are the things that make you feel safe? And then do some research about them. So like, is there something that, you know, you're like, I really need to take a salt bath every day. Okay, cool. Like salt is incredibly protective. So like, there you go. You have something there, right? Or like, are there herbs that you want to drink in tea form every day? Like for me, like I really love chamomile and lavender. And I did some research and was like, oh, these are actually very like supportive herbs. Or like, do you like to burn incense of certain varieties? Do you like whatever? Like, however, are there certain stones that you're drawn to that feel supportive or feel grounding or feel, yeah. And I think, there's a lot of out in the zeitgeist, I think that's the right word, of the world about like the vilification, demonization, just like general, like be terrified of these things. And I don't think that that's by accident. I think so. Here's the thing: as a white person, I will say that there are certain practices that like do not touch with the 10-foot pole, but that's my piece, is like, if you potentially have ancestors that have oppressed anybody who has a tradition that is closed, or those are things that you need to approach with the utmost of respect and caution. That's just, I think, common sense, and just is what, but there's things where it's like, people are like, haunted houses are so scary. And I'm just like, I don't know. To me, I think about spirits as people, and like, they're probably really fucking lonely. And like, we moved into a house that this land that I live on used to be the first hospital in this region. So like, there's a fuck ton of people who've died where I sleep. Like, and when I moved into this house, weird shit happened. But I looked at my animals and they were always like conked out sleeping when it was happening. So I'm like, okay, like I feel like if it was something super sketchy, animals are a lot more in tune than I am. And so it's probably fine. It's probably just like whatever. And so I remember one day just being like, hey, we're good. Like, I don't need any help. I don't need anything from you. If you want to chill out and like be around, don't be creepy. Like, but you can hang out, but also stop making weird sounds because I don't like it. It's not fun. And or you can just leave. Like if you can't play by the rules, you're welcome to go. And then the sound stopped. I like put some lavender in the diffuser to be like, here, maybe they want some calming. And then I just like, whatever. This is like way before witchy times. So this was just all on instinct. I was like, okay, we're just gonna do this. And so, I think that there's a lot in collective consciousness, especially because of Christianity, that like demonizes this stuff and says that it's evil, they're demons or whatever. And it's like, I don't know. It might just be your grandma being like, hey, I love you, and is trying to find a weird way, like is just scaring you by accident because you've been told to be afraid of these things. Does that make any sense to anyone? Maybe I'm going off in left field, but I just, I'm also someone who has done like immense ancestral work, like traveled back in time with certain grandmothers. I'm doing like lineage work that way. And so I think that the other piece is that like to remember that you have a whole set of spirit guides, you have a whole set of ancestors that are I only call in my healing ancestors. Thanks. I feel like this might become an inside joke. But I'm here for it. But you have a whole litany of like potential forces that are protecting you whether you know it or not. And with, how do I say this? I want to confidently be like, I would love to like demonstrate and help you understand that they are protecting you. Does that make any sense to anyone? I want to leave it at that because I'm just kind of like, I think I'm speaking around a bunch of things and it's probably bringing up stuff for other people. So I'm going to like just about my grandma just trying to scare her off purpose. That also, I mean, like, I don't know what your family lines are about. Like, I don't know. but, but like, I think that the thing is that we, aren't alone. I think that that's also part of this whole journey is that it really shatters that illusion of like, you're alone. And it's like, no, like have not been, maybe ever. We're also not alone on a planet of 8 billion living people either. But we certainly spiritually are not alone. And communities like that, like this, especially like reinforce that for me. I'm like, no, we have so much more in common than we realize and are so much more connected than we realize. So I'm gonna leave it there and I don't know who's next. 1 second. I think it's Matt.
Okay. So one thing in all this that I think we all instinctually know, but I think is important to verbalize and recognize is around the topic of control, right? Like getting bombarded with messages as a kid or adult and yanked into this stuff. Guess what? I don't think any of us had a control over that. Like if you get raised in a witchy family, you didn't have control over that, whether it was taught to you by the universe and outside forces or your family upbringing or wherever. Same thing with, hey, spirit, whatever, just decided to knock a can off the counter and scare the crap out of me. The control is not in the external. It's following the rules of respect to engage with these energies, engage with these spirits, and work with them towards a mutually agreeable situation. We don't get to control that. We enter a space and all our sixth sense goes off and go, ooh, someone's not happy about this place or me being in it, whatever it is, we're not in control of that. What we are in control of that needs to be recognized is what are we short-term in control of and what are we long-term in control of. Short-term I'm in control of picking up the can and putting it back on the counter. I'm in control of turning around and leaving this space that's firing off my sixth sense. Long term, the things that we can control are, you know what? I'm choosing to engage with energy and spirits or whatever keep knocking shit off the counter and scaring the crap out of me. What can I do in my life to practice, build tools, whether they're internal, psychological, emotional, whatever they are, to gain control over my own emotional response when these external things happen to us? And separating out those boxes of what's happening to us, what is our reaction, and what can I can control moving forward to change the way I react to certain things. If you're afraid of heights, don't jump out of a plane and skydive first. But there are tools towards start with a ladder, start with support partners, start with a therapist, whatever that may be. Identify the parts you can control, the parts you can't, and long term, what you can work towards changing. And I think those boxes really help remove the fear level of stepping all into this, because we're acknowledging what we can't control. This stuff is chaos, stuff happens to us. You engage with this stuff, it's going to mess with your, well, not mess, it may be great and positive, but it's going to have influences in our life that we can't directly control. And that's okay. And it's just separating out those boxes really helps remove the fear from that.
I almost baptized my screen when with my tea when Petra said it might just be grandma. Like, I had just taken a swig, like, your timing was perfect. I had to cover my mouth. It was like I was gonna have a dribble issue. That was hilarious. Um, what I've experienced of, like, uh the unseen world, uh, the energetic world, spirit world, um, I think it's really important for us to remember that they are not timelined like we are. So and they don't experience emotions like we do, because what is an emotion, guys? That's a physical reaction within your physical body, right? So if you actually think about those kinds of things and take into account the experience of the spirit world or energetic world, it really does help to understand um, your place in it. As an incarnated human, you're, from what I've experienced, it's a collaborative experience, right? It is you learning how to advocate for a system, how to participate with a system, and you get to choose how you participate with that system, right? And how you decide to participate with your internal system is how you decide to participate with your environment, both physical and energetic. And so that's, again, why I stress so much about that internal work first, because it really does dictate how you interact with everything around you, even based on, like, control or cooperation. Are you wanting to control your physical world? Are you wanting to control the energetic world or control your relationship with your spirits? Or are you wanting to collaborate? Are you wanting to understand? Are you wanting to cooperate? And so being more mindful of how you approach things, right, is that, like, flavor of approach is important, because it really does dictate your experience, how you experience things. And oh my God, I just went, like, in 5 different directions. And also remembering that we as humans have that belief that if it's inside, it's inside. If it's outside, it's outside. And that the outside is, like, unaware of what is going on inside. And that is an exclusive human experience, right? Uh, that is an illusion, and the spirit world is not under that same illusion. And so if you're thinking that your internal environment is not being experienced by the external world and the spirit world, you're delusional. That is delusion. Because the spirit world chooses how to engage with you based on how you choose to engage with your internal environment and the environment around you, all of those subtleties. Uh, and it's important to like remember that and don't like shortchange yourself. There is no quick fix with this stuff. There is no fast route. There's an intense route, and there is a like easy like tempered route. But at the same time, there is a way that our systems function. There's a way that the human mind functions. There's a way that we actually learn things. And when we figure out how, again, our mind and our system learns things and um, how we cooperate or participate with other things, how our frequency interacts with the frequency around us is important stuff to know. And this is all stuff that we explore with foundations, right? And a lot of the conversations that we have, I'm feeling a bit more like ranty, so I'm going to let Maria take it from here. Go ahead, Maria.
Thanks. It's such an interesting topic. I'm happy that you brought it up, and um, it's the reason too why I said, for me, like, from my perspective, if he's hearing things, seeing things, picking up energies, of course, I think the grounding is super important. The deconstruction and the like knowing yourself is very important. But for somebody like me, I couldn't get caught up in, like, I could study grounding for 5 years and feel like I'm not ready yet. But I know that about myself. So, I know that at some point I gotta dive in, to do the thing. But I knowing that I've done what done the preparation. So that's why I said, to dip like your toe in, or dip his toe in if he's comfortable, and then more just like, what is the experience? Um, like for me, and it's interesting about belief, right? Because like I've changed what I believe over my lifetime, At this time, I believe that, we are infinite beings. And so when I was younger, I feel like I always kind of believed that, but there was a lot of other stuff going on. But because I believe we're infinite beings, like kind of like what Petra's saying, I'm like, well, maybe it's somebody that knows me, but I'm here, and then the veil of forgetting happened, and maybe they're like, and so like it just doesn't. I'm then like it just takes like all these old beliefs about what I thought I needed to be afraid of. If I'm an infinite being, I've probably met some of these entities before. I just don't remember. Um, and also like to what Petra said, like maybe like I'm the only one that like acknowledge them, and they've been waiting like 10 years to tell somebody this. Like, but those types of things just helped me process like what am I really afraid of. What I particularly was afraid of was seeing. I'm not was never bothered me to pick things up. Auditory wise, but I didn't want to, like what you guys were saying, like grandma to like jump out at you. Like I don't want that to happen, because I know that I'll be afraid, because I'm a human, and if somebody jumps out of the closet and scares you, that's fucking scary. So I don't want that to happen. So if I feeling an energy, or I feel like I am getting a message or some or a communication of some form, I'll be like, okay, like please don't jump out at me, that will interrupt this conversation. Like, but I'm okay if you just want to talk. um However, I would like to still continue to practice and explore, and eventually maybe be okay with somebody popping out of the closet. like I'm here for it. I'd like to work toward it, but I'm not there quite yet. But yeah, so just kind of, what everybody has already said, but like really exploring those beliefs and, will dictate like how this is gonna like happen for him. But it's exciting. It's exciting to like be in this process and like discover the discovery process. And it's fun. And um, he has a great partner to like experience that with. So that's fabulous. Jen Marie.
A fun like first step in establishing that like communication between like guides and things like that is the signs and synchronicities exercise, which I know that that you could teach him to do to start doing that kind of stuff. Hey, guides, um, send me the color orange for encouragement today. Send me a breeze, just actually establishing that communication in that way helps to solidify the reality of his experience and helps for him to be able to feel into the energetic signature of when he does receive those things a little bit more, right? And so the more he can become familiar with the feeling signature of his guides or guidance system, the better, because that's how you get that flavor of what is my system and guides, who are my homies and who are the visitors, right? Because it's hard to distinguish that in the beginning when you haven't really opened yourself up to those experiences. So setting the tone specifically, you can do that. And um, I I talk a lot about, not a lot, but those who know me closely know that I don't do protection magic anymore. Like I don't at all. But that is because of where I am in my practice. I do not encourage others to like just don't do protection magic, blah blah blah. I say if you feel like you need to do protection magic, you should absolutely do protection magic, because that is where your relationship is with your life. I'm not saying that the goal is to never do it either. I'm just saying that there are options. There's a lot of different ways of doing this. And the reason I have gotten to where I am is because of the intensity of the lived experience that I've had. Like I have had first, my system has experienced violence, intense violence, very young and very long term. I've experienced a lot of things that people beg for protection from, and I have survived it. So my system is more to a point of like protection from what? Like I know I can handle anything and expand and grow from anything that I experience. And I welcome that, right? I'm not in resistance to discomfort. I am not in resistance to life in all of its forms. And I, again, know my system well enough to know that it would be an expansive experience. Um, but again, it has taken a lot of internal work to get to that point. I don't believe that I am like vulnerability is a different thing for me. Um, and so yeah, where I was going with that. It absolutely always comes down to what you believe. That is how that's a science thing. That's not even a woo-woo thing, guys. That is a neuroscience psychology. You see what you believe. It is also based on your visual accommodation system as well. Like you literally see what you believe. You experience what you believe. And so that's why beliefs are so important to look at, especially when we start opening ourselves up to remembering that we're only experiencing a fraction of what is possible, because of our social conditioning, because we have been limited and told what is acceptable, what's an acceptable experience and what isn't. So go ahead, Wit.
Yeah, it's It's definitely an interesting experience to be one who doesn't do as much protection magic either myself, because I've come to a place where I'm on a similar like train of thought of like what is meant for me to experience is going to come and I'm going to experience it, and I want it to. And so um you know, working through, I'm still newer to on that side of it, I feel like, of where I'm like, oh, now how do I, balance my uh kind of like what I want to experience and then also help him through what he's experiencing. So like it's an interesting uh dynamic to be working through as well too, and of course it's a great practice for me of really pulling out the differences there too, of like how to help him while also continuing my expansion as well too.
I think like thanks. You know, I'm sure he's been watching a lot of like videos, especially if he's on TikTok on the witch talk, and there's just lots of stuff out there. I mean, I would just say me personally, grounding for me is the utmost important thing before I start anything. To me, grounding and the feeling that my physical body, my mind feels when I'm grounded is way more than any like protection, more like woo woo protection can do. Because if my nervous system is engaged, then that grounding is going to help. So just I can't say enough about grounding. Like I just think grounding for me, to start somewhere for anyone starting in any practice, and whatever that looks like for you. Again, there's so many different ways to ground, but grounding for me like is almost protection, because if I'm grounded and I feel like my nervous system is regulated in that moment, then I don't feel like any fear. I don't feel like anything can harm me because I'm completely grounded. I'm driving the bus and like I'm good. If my nervous system does become heightened, then I just disengage. I still am not like afraid anything bad is going to happen to me, but I know like, oh, you just need to take a pause, like what's going on, tune in, take some data, what happened, and then maybe take a pause from what I was doing, and then, go back to it. But having a grounding practice, whatever that looks like, I think is the most, the one of the things that witches need to learn or experience, whatever. Gemry.
I want to point out, right, that the grounding practice, right? We are neurodivergent, and a lot of us tend to take things very fucking literally, right? And so that whole grounding process, like I that experience has changed, has evolved for me over the last like 3 years, especially as I've kind of dove in a little bit more into, the sensory experience and all of that, and how our minds as neurodivergent humans process so much more information even at rest. So what is grounding to us? What does that mean to us? Right? Does it and connecting to the earth, like, that doesn't make sense, like, practical sense. What are you actually doing when you are grounding, right? And I needed for it to be explained to me from a, like, neurodivergent perspective of, we have a sensory cup, right? We have this cup that all of our sensory experience go into this cup. And if this cup is full, then we have a really difficult time processing new sensory experience. And so the important thing is to be mindful of that cup and to be a good advocate for our system in being mindful of that cup. And so doing things that empty that sensory cup. And that is something like what Morgana just said. So going out and putting your bare feet on the ground and like harmonizing and allowing your system to co regulate with the earth is what you're doing. You are attuning to a frequency. You are harmonizing with the earth, something that is solid and real, because all of the mundane life that a lot of us live, that's not real. That's a social agreement. A lot of those things are just like all these stacked social agreements, and we're like supposed to do all this stuff. It's not real. Not real like the tree. It's not real like the wind, right? And so when we need to be grounded, it's our system needs to harmonize with the natural world so that we can mind our cup, right? And it gets to the point, and it has gotten to the point, and I've been very intensely doing this since March because I had an autistic burnout. And so prioritizing that sensory experience has been really vital in my system's recovery from that experience. And I have found that I actually crave going outside and doing this practice of harmonizing. And I'm going to be doing a workshop on this at the Autumnal Convergence of how to do this. Um, it is absolutely life changing. And I get to where I crave doing that grounding before I do any kind of working. And then at the end of working, I do that as well, because it's, again, reminding my system of what is real and minding that cup. So go ahead, Matt.
There's the mute button. Yeah, and so I'll add to the whole grounding and neurodivergent. We're all a little bit different and spicy at times with those sort of things. I think in general the community relies too much on grounding with earth. Yeah, I still totally agree that a lot of that is about removing the social constructs and those other sort of things, and that's a very widely effective tool. But I also feel grounding can come through connection with spirit guides, connection with dead, connection with other people that aren't you, where you don't have to feel that you have those social whatever with. If you are lucky enough to have someone where you can really just sit down and be you, I think what ends up happening is a lot of us relate to earth and nature as being the easiest safe space for that. But I don't think it necessarily, it doesn't need to be limited to the how do we best reconnect with earth? How do we best, just removing that, hey, yes, that's the general way that a lot of us do that. And I'm in a big city. My connection to earth is a lot different than Jen. You're out in the middle of nowhere. Like, don't get me wrong. Like, I'm druidy as fuck at times. I would love to be out in the middle of nowhere, but it's different for you. And in much more of a city environment, you know what? The local park with a bunch of kids running around may not be a good grounding thing. The backyard where I'm still close to whatever's going on in the house is bothering me. So I think there's a good level of importance of going, is earth and putting my feet on the ground the best way for me to ground in my practice?
Thank you for bringing that up. Yeah, it's more about finding what your system is like asking for you to do. Your system will tell you what you need to do through curiosity, through a like spark of your interest. You'll know what your system will be like. Hey, go listen to the birds, go to the zoo, just sit around, listen to the wind blowing through the trees, listen to the leaves, listen to, sorry, that back to nature again, listen to the musician on the street corner playing and lose yourself in the sound of the music. There's so many things that we can do, and again, all of our systems are going to require different things. Some people are going to need movement in order to feel grounded. Some people are going to need to like swim in water in order to feel grounded. And grounded meaning that balance and presence is the goal. It's not necessarily connected, it's just that balance and presence. I am here right now, and this moment is all that there is, like right now. I And then the other side of that is to make choices that support your system and what they need. I need the natural world. My system needs that connection. And so living in Alaska is like, that was great choice system to move back up here and to do this. Uh, because I cannot live in the city. Like I cannot do that. I can't do it. It's just, it's over, it fills my cup too much, right? Um, oh, there was something else and I lost it completely. All right, that's fun. Okay, go Petra. Oh wait, no, it's Matt and then Petra. Sorry.
Yeah, I'll add to that. Yes, our systems are good about telling us what works. But something that helped me a lot in growth in my practice, I forget where it came from. I think it was a YouTube or something about how we learn and what we like. And it seems so obvious now, but the big takeaway from me was the vast, vast, vast majority of the time, we learn what we like to do and what works for us through trying things that we end up not liking. I think if we all go through our collective history or individual history, find that we tried a lot of crap that doesn't work before we tried the crap that does. So yeah, so it's that balance of, hey, I'm gonna try this and I'm gonna try that, and the curiosity is it's a really big thing that is hard to hang on to sometimes, because sometimes we try 4 or 5 or 8 or 10 or 100 things that don't work for us first and get really discouraged. And I would challenge that if you're getting past 15 or 20 or 10, that you maybe you're not listening to your system enough. But I also think it's important to go into the experience of we're finding out, like my body's calling to me, we're going to find out how well it works. Because just because it works doesn't mean it's the best solution either. There could be that, hey, yeah, I'm a city guy, I'm going into a park, I could totally find some grounding there, whatever. Like, I mean, I'm not a city guy, but whatever that is, it's the, hey, it's okay if this doesn't work. It's okay if this doesn't do the greatest for me. But also not to forget, is there something out there that could work better, and have I tried it yet? And some of my personal biggest jumps came from leaving the thing I knew that worked pretty well in search of the thing that could be amazing. Oh, I think Petra's next.
I just wanted to check in with you. Had said weigh in the chat, but then I don't see your hand, so I wanted to make sure that we weren't like we were missing your turn.
Jen said exactly what I was going to say, so.
I was like, I missed something there. I don't know what's going on. I just don't make. That's me being like, nobody's being left out, right?
I appreciate you though, Petra.
I just wanted. I appreciate you too. I just wanted to offer that, like, in different language, I think the concept that we're talking about with grounding also falls under, in terms of nervous system, terms like either auto-regulation or co-regulation. So auto-regulation is things that we do automatically to regulate ourselves. Often it's spoken in more of like I want to say, like, I don't like this word, but like negative terms, like overeating or addiction, or like things that we just instinctively go towards to like deal with the overwhelm inside of our bodies, as opposed to co-regulation, which can be like with another safe person, with a pet, with nature, like with trees, with the horizon. Like it doesn't have to be like trees. It can just looking at the horizon or going for a walk can downregulate our amygdala. These are things that we can do to help support our nervous systems and having capacity to hold whatever is making us feel overwhelmed. Whatever sensations, emotions, experiences, thoughts, all the things. So that's how I look at it in terms of co-regulation or other things that I can do to support my nervous system. And those, I mean, I'm gonna be really honest. I don't think that there's like lines of delineation in my life between like what is witchy and what is not witchy. I'm like, man, it's all magic. Like, it's all like it's all tangled Christmas lights. Like it's all together. Like we're not unraveling any of this nonsense. Like sometimes my brain tries to because it's like I would like to put it in a box and then it goes in a box and then but that's just like the illusion of control. Which is an illusion. So that is a piece that I just want to offer is that like we can, as human beings, we can co-regulate with just about anything. You can co-regulate honestly with a television show that makes you feel safe and comfortable. Like that is something that in terms of polyvagal theory can bring us out of like a fight or flight, like an activated or a depressed state and into a more socially engaged state. Being in lives on TikTok can do the same thing. These are things that can help us feel like we're able to be present with what is. Often because we're social creatures and social mammals, specifically being with other people or with other mammals is something that can be really helpful. Also, that's where the nature piece comes from, because living things like grass and trees and all of the things also help our nervous system co-regulate. Makes sense. We like didn't live in what we live in now for millions of years. We lived in very like close proximity to nature. We literally like lived in it, and then we also lived with other people. But also because of trauma, a lot of times it's hard for us to go to other people when we're that dysregulated. So we've come up with other ways of coping. And I think that anything that helps us feel like we have the capacity to be present with what is, I would group that under grounding. Like I'm like, whatever, like that's kind of how I feel about it. But I know that, if we're gonna be purist about things, people are like, there's different schools of thoughts about it, right? Because if you ask someone like a Buddhist meditation teacher what is grounding versus like someone, like people will all have their own definitions. I think the point is to find out what works for you. And also like along with what Matt was saying is that like tools that worked for me 2 years ago don't really work the same. Like not all of them don't work the same, but there are certain things like as you evolve, so do your like the trauma term or the term, say the kind of term in somatics is resources. So what feels supportive changes as you evolve, like we're growing. So for me, something that allows me to be present with what is and feel really supported is often really warm baths. I have a lot of somatic bracing when I'm really like nervous. My entire body just becomes armor, and I need to like literally put my nervous system in like the safest, darkest little sensory deprivation bathtub with salt and be like, hey, you're okay. Like, and then my body's like, okay. And then I'll usually cry a bunch, and then it's all whatever's been like being like that automatic armoring isn't something that I can circumvent yet, but it's something that I now have this awareness of like, okay, when this happens, if I do this, then I'll make space for what is, and then I'll be able to be present with it. I don't know why I gave you that example, but that just felt like important to share because I think a lot of times when I see things on spiritual TikTok and in other places, there's I don't have a better word for this, but I don't love this word. There's a bastardization of the Buddhist concepts around like meditation and being present. There's really this like spiritual bypassing element that comes into play online a lot that is, I'm just like, I have a part of me that's just like, that's actually so mad. It's like, it's not genuine to how like most Buddhist teachers teach these things. Like if you look at Thich Nhat Hanh's like Plum Village lectures on YouTube or on any other places, read his books. He talks about preparing for emotions, like getting comforting pillows, sitting and waiting for what is about the storm that is about to roll through. And it's not about like, don't feel it, run away, be present in a wave bypass, or like get in your head and so you don't feel your body, like, which is a lot of what happens. And I'm going to be honest, in Western spaces, because dissociation is how I'm going to just be really blunt, white folks survived a lot of the trauma that we have had inflicted in our 1,000 years back of generations, and also in the trauma that we've like our ancestors may have inflicted on other people. And so, and that disconnection from our own humanity is something that we get to work with into reintegrating how to make space for those feelings. And that's hard. That's not an easy task. I actually don't like that word. It's challenging. There's work to be done in there. Like it's not something that comes automatically because that freeze and dissociation stuff is a very exquisitely designed system. It's like supposed to help us survive the most awful things, right? But I think tying in with like what Maria was talking about like her own nervous system is like that when we're in those states, what we can access in terms of spirituality is limited, and I don't want to say that means that you can't access things. It just means that like the lens with which we look through the world will be obscured by the numbness, by the dissociation, by the avoidance of the distress. I just, in my own experience, I don't want to speak to anyone else's stuff, but that the more I do this work, the more I realize that like being present and like accepting what actually is alive in me is such a process of like it's like cleaning the lenses with which I see the world, and helps me to see that the world is less dangerous than my trauma would have me believe, and helps me also assess situations more accurately. And that doesn't mean like that I think everybody's safe and everything's fine and dandy and roses. No, that's bullshit. It means that like we can have access to a more authentic version of ourselves and a more authentic version of reality. I don't know if that makes any sense, but I'm going to end it there because that's kind of the meandering will get much more intense, and I don't know who is next. Matt, it gets back to you.
Okay. Yeah, something that I find, especially in energy communities, that I at least feel is highly, highly forgotten about, at least in our day-to-day lives a lot, is check the mundane first. Have I checked the mundane? Check the mundane first. Like if I'm not feeling grounded and I'm experienced with energy, my non-grounding probably isn't from some spirit or energy being or whatever that's throwing me off. It's something in my own physical environment and physical realm that is pushing my physical body to be ungrounded, in which case mind, body, spirit. And so if it's, and I find a bell curve that I followed myself and have seen other witches develop, is when you come from a world that doesn't engage any of it, learning to ground and connect with earth and nature is a new thing that needs to be done in order to grow the spirituality. And then oftentimes we find, oh, that's a great solution to this ungrounding problem I often have. But once we learn how to connect with earth and learn how to open those channels, I find more often my ungroundingness comes from, well, when was the last time I journaled? When was the last time I was on the yoga mat? What has my diet been for the last 3 days? Did I forget to eat for 2 days? Because guess what? I can pretty much guarantee I'm not the only one in this room who's done that on a fairly regular basis. So yes, I'm feeling ungrounded, absolutely. But I find a lot of times what should be the question that gets completely skipped is, what are the physical things going on with my body and emotional things going on in my life? How much of those are part of this grounding thing? Because I can go sit under a tree all day, and if I haven't eaten 2 days, it's not going to help my brain feeling out of shit as crazy because my blood sugar's off. It's just not. I mean, it might put a Band-Aid on the problem, but it isn't fixing the inherent issue. So for me, it's back to the mundane, mind, body, then maybe spirit. If we've eliminated mind and body, sure, jump into spirit. But if our physical body is feeling off, more likely than not, in my experience and what I've heard from others, if we dig into the diet, if we dig into the exercise, if we dig into the emotional things going on in our lives around us or decisions, man, that shows a lot of, like, there's a high correlation between there being an issue from the physical realm and not from actually needing to go sit under a tree. Maybe sitting under a tree is what helps you journal or eat and is a great complementary tool, but we can't forget mind and body. That's all. I think Jen's up.
Yeah, Jen also totally forgot to write down what I raised my hand for, so this is fun. Hi guys. I love this conversation so much. We have like little over 10 minutes left. And it's that fun point where we're like, do we continue on this conversation? Is there anything else that somebody wants to bring up? Or share their experience? Has anyone been waiting until the end of SASS to say something? Because they don't want to, like, be the center of attention for too long. Just checking in, letting you know I can tell I see you. I'm giving you a moment. So with this whole conversation, right, guys, talking about how I have I have amplified my practice of actually going outside, and the best word is harmonizing. To go out and harmonize, co-regulate with my environment. But the fact that I can turn my head to the mountain range that surrounds the valley I live in, and the termination lines are like halfway down the mountains, I cannot deny the fact that this practice of going outside and co-regulating with my environment is about to change. And because this is the first year that I have so intensely connected with the land that my house is on, uh, I'm looking forward to feeling and experiencing the shift as the trees begin to go to sleep, and as things begin, because I can already feel the change, because it looks like autumn in Alaska right now. And I've already had a lot of conversations and everything with the trees and the environment around here. Uh, but we haven't talked about what the winter environment is. If you've ever had a conversation with a tree, they don't really this is what is going to happen. They are very present with things and cryptic. And at least that's my experience. They're poetic and cryptic, and really, really old beings that have been around for a really long time. So I am curious about what that shift is going to be like for me, and starting to kind of explore these other options of that co-regulation that I have uh, that I crave now. And Rufio and Stella do a really good job with that, because I'm able to like co-regulate with them and that like familiar energy. And I have trees in my house. Those of you that have been here and met Norton know that I have a relationship with a tree in my bedroom. And oh, that sounded way better than I could possibly imagine. Like my outside ears just heard that sentence and I'm excited about it. It's fun. My outside ears. Oh my God. Um yeah, so I'm curious about what that's gonna be like. Um oh, go ahead, Matt. I'm just rambling.
Oh, well, no, you actually stumbled into something I think is really great. Um, so you said a couple of times, I'm curious about what this experience is going to be like. And we just spent a lot of time about controlling and engaging the chaos at the same time. I would challenge to you at a personal level, not to answer right this second, but to look at the next 3 to 6 months, look at the winter coming and decide what experiences you want it to look like. Don't let there's a great part of being in tune and letting the universe be universe and happen to us, but we get to decide too. If we didn't get to decide, then none of these conversations, like the rest of the last 2 hours about how we change ourselves in these environments, would be completely pointless. So I challenge you to not only think about what the kinds of experiences you want it to be and want to be included, and then setting up, oh, I want to go do a winter camping, whatever. That's easy. That's planning. Well, it may not be easy for everyone, but it compared to, hey, what do I want this experience to be like? And then how do I trick or engage, create habits that create Pavlovian responses within my body, within my spirituality, within my mind that help open the doors for those experiences I want to happen. So what do I want to happen? Am I ready for it? The parts I'm not ready for, how do I train myself? And I think the biggest thing in that is not going, well, a part of the curiosity of the future is also going, what is my influence and what do I want out of it? And yeah, like now we're getting into manifesting and everything else blurring, like, but even if you take manifesting out and make it a totally mundane thing in a purely physical world, if that's the way it existed and we do have some semblance of control, that process still works. So I think making decisions about what we want about the future is hugely impactful and helpful. Back to you.
You're on
Oh, you're muted though.
I agree with you, but let's look at want. Uh, how do you know what you want? Right? What I want is for life to unfold as it should. What I want is to maintain alignment with my authentic self. And what I want is to be open to what life and my guides and the universe is bringing to me. Um, I am in the practice of I don't want to control. How am I supposed to know what is uh what is best for my system to experience, right? I trust that my guides will bring to me whatever it is that is best for me. And I don't I actively choose not to uh try to control that at all. And actively deconstruct any inclination or desire to control what may be coming, and am actively getting into the practice of that, like, absolute acceptance. And that's why I say I'm curious about what I'm going to experience, because when I stay in that position of curiosity and acceptance and openness, what actually occurs is greater than anything I could possibly imagine. And I've experienced that over the course of this last 2 years. 3 years ago, if you would have asked me what I wanted, I never would have been able to even guess that, my TikTok account would do what it's doing and all of this stuff. There's no way that I could have even seen this coming and known how to prepare myself other than that extreme presence and acceptance and curiosity about what is coming and what is around the bend. Um, so yeah, I see what you're saying. I see what you're saying. But it's the opposite of my practice, is more in like acceptance than like impressing my will upon my like future, which I totally can do if I wanted to, but I don't want to. Go ahead, Maria.
Thanks. Yeah, I feel like I'm so very tired of like planning shit. And what I mean by that is like, um, yeah, like I'm just very tired from living like my life the way that I had. And but that's okay. It was the only way I knew at the time, or I was just doing my best, what I knew best at the time. But I'm just so very tired. And so my practice and my like engagement with my systems at this point, and I feel comfortable like at this point in doing this, is very intuitive. Um, I don't like to like plan, or I even like don't right now I don't even want like any routines, because I just want to experience things that I haven't experienced. And so, but I feel, and that's different for me. Um and like releasing control, and um I'm very much someone that, control is like just a huge part of my existence. For a really long time, and for a lot of protective reasons and things like that. But now, like, I do feel safe to kind of like let it go and just like explore. um and that's just where I am. So, ta-da. Matt, back to you.
Yeah, I think I said it a little weird because Jen, everything you said, I'm in alignment with, except for a micro difference, right? I don't feel that letting go, like, I think there's a healthy way to have wants, desires, needs, recognize them, and then plan for them. Like you, whether it was, I don't know your backstory of how you ended up in Alaska, but I would imagine it's a calling. It's not moving across the city because the yard's nice, or like that's a pick up and reroute your life thing. Right. And you were prepared for it, and you listen. It was a balance of listening to the callings and listening to yourself and working towards making an opportunity to allow those experiences to happen. And for you, that answer was Alaska. And so I'm saying use that same lens towards the approaching season of let it happen, let it whatever, but also like what's the point in all the messages if we don't take them and go do something with them, right? We still have control in our lives and we have some choice. So it's a fine line between, I think when you remove the expectations and remove the I need this to happen in order to be fulfilled in the experience, that's where the line of control is. And if you remove the expectations and the judging of the outcome I thought I was going to get versus the outcome I did actually get, doesn't matter if those match. Go back to What was I trying to get out of this? And then be prepared and set yourself up. Like, it's okay to say, like, I got to a point in my life where I was really big by the number on the scale and what my waist measurements were, etc. I decided to engage and change some things in my life and build some habits. And I think that's an okay goal to have. It's my own health, my own body. But I let go of the, when I get to X weight or X body size or whatever, it was a balance of, okay, my body's in a much better place where I'm feeling, healthy, and I set up the tools and the procedures to bring them messages to me like, hey, my health is deteriorating and this, while the scale keeps going up, let's turn this sucker around. And so, yeah, letting go of the expectations, let go of the control, absolutely needed. You're not going to out magic or manifest that winter doesn't happen in Alaska. Not happening. It's going to get sub-zero. But I don't think there's anything about an engagement of when it is like that. Maybe it's that you want to experience hypothermia training for whatever reason, whatever it is. Prepare your body, have a desire to engage with the environment and the season that is coming. And there's a billion ways that you can engage any experience. And if you don't pick, or at least have a direction, then we're not listening to ourselves either.
Whit, we can wrap it up
That's-
with you. Thanks, Matt.
I think this may be a statement or a comment that maybe next SASS we can start on then. But I think what I'm hearing too is really looking at more of like the perspective and changing our perspective about what it is. It's not necessarily controlling, it's opening up and looking at every experience that you have and seeing how it is for you. Yes, of course, none of us will remember, but I like to delude myself. Hashtag toxic trait, I'll remember. But I think what I'm hearing too is just like it kind of leads me back to that perspective too. Any experience that comes in my life is here for a reason, and how can I learn from it, and how can it guide my life still, and help me expand. So just wanted to volley that one in there and then say goodbye.
Goodbye. Thank you, Matt, for sharing that, for sure. I love that. And of course we get like in a juicy conversation with broad spectrum perspective right at the end of SASS. So hopefully we'll remember to like touch base on this, because like we're all saying the same thing. And I love how we can all like say the same thing and have these conversations and kind of dial that in just a little bit more for future conversations. That's like the beautiful thing about community and us kind of getting together like this. Thank you for everyone that is still here and sticking around. As the veil begins to thin over the course of the next few weeks, I'm looking forward to seeing what conversations like come up. And don't forget to take deep breaths. Practice that like co-regulation. There's a lot of stuff that a lot of grief, especially, that gets tickled during these times when the veil starts to thin. So be kind of prepared for that and compassionate with your systems as we're processing this transition. And on that note, may your practice be expansive and filled with many blessings, bright and dark. I will see you guys next week. And knowing that the following week, most of the support team is going to be down in Oregon at the Autumnal Convergence. So we're not doing SASS, are we? Like that first, yeah. So not next week. Next week there is SASS. The following week we won't be having SASS because we're all going to be frolicking in the woods and playing in a river together, because that is what we do. Have a
I believe
great
that is
week, guys.
I believe it's October 1st. No sass on October 1st.
No sass on the 1st. Love you guys. Bye.
Bye.